Hello friends, this is Hedda. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want us to draw a sticker together. I have this idea for a sticker. A little backstory before we get into it. I have a Patreon and every month for my patrons I make printable journaling kits with like digital stickers and stuff, so people can download the files, print them out at home, and then either print them on regular printer paper or on sticker paper and kind of make their own stickers that way. But I also send out physical mail to people. This physical mail consists of usually one sticker sheet and one vinyl sticker. For example, like this. This was the happy mail for March. Well, actually there was another sticker sheet. So these 3 items I sent to everyone during March. So we have this vinyl sticker with some really cool pixie dust details and then 2 sticker sheets. Anyone who was a member of the Charles or the Twin Charles tier on my Patreon during March got this in the mail. So every month I have to make a new vinyl sticker and a new sticker sheet. And this time I thought I would take you on the journey of making the vinyl sticker. So I am filming the entire process, the entire drawing process, or at least as much of it as I can. I'll also show you the time lapse towards the end. But before we get into the drawing, I want to talk to you about what I use to make my stickers. I use an iPad. This is an iPad Pro. It is not the newest model by far. This is the iPad Pro 12.9 inch. It's the 4th generation. I got this used because iPads are incredibly expensive. I have this paper-like screen protector that makes it matte and kind of feels more like paper when you draw on it. The program that I use to draw my stickers is Procreate. I like that Procreate is a one-time purchase, no subscription necessary. I make all of my hand-drawn stuff in Procreate. I love that app. It's the best app. If there's one app I can recommend to anyone who wants to do digital art, it's Procreate. I really like it. I also have a MacBook Pro. I have the 14-inch MacBook Pro from 2021. It was the first MacBook Pro that had the M1 chip, I think. On my MacBook, I have Adobe Illustrator, so I do have an Adobe subscription. If you are a student, the subscription is a lot cheaper. For me, it's quite expensive. I have their plan that has like all of the programs because once I started using Adobe Illustrator, I decided I need to make the most use of all of these programs. So I also use Adobe Lightroom to edit my photos, and I use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit my videos, like my YouTube videos. I have used it to edit Reels and TikToks and stuff too in the past, but I don't do that anymore because it's too tedious to have to do that on my computer every time. So now I use an app called Velo, V-L-L-O, on my phone, which you can use for free. You don't have to pay for it, you just have to watch some ads. Oh, and of course I also have the Apple Pencil for my iPad, and this is the, I think, 2nd generation Apple Pencil 2 or something. So those are the supplies that I use to make digital stickers. They are not the cheapest products, and there are definitely cheaper alternatives. This is what's working for me though, and these are the programs and the devices that I feel very comfortable with. Now I have this kind of rough idea of what I want to draw. I know it's going to be a mermaid, and I've kind of just drawn a rough sketch here. So she's kind of sitting down, and I want there to be some sort of fish or something that is kind of swimming past her. I want her hair to be kind of flowing out here. Ooh, this is difficult. And this is just an A4 sized canvas. I try to not make my canvases too large because the brushes that I work with, they are easier to use, in my opinion, on a smaller canvas. And since I know that the sticker is only going to be about this size, it doesn't have to be a super large file. I'm not going to like blow it up on a huge art print or anything like that. So when I make stickers like this, I try to keep the canvas just a little bit larger than it will be when it gets printed. I always work with 300 dpi, That is kind of the resolution on your canvas. I wouldn't recommend using anything less than that, especially if you are going to print it. You want the resolution to be as high as possible. I sometimes like to go out to a cafe or library or something like that when I know that I have to just like churn out an art piece. I usually feel like I can concentrate a little bit better if I go out somewhere versus sitting here at home, because then there's always something else that needs to be done and there are lots of distractions because suddenly I need to make some food or I get an email that I need to reply to or something like that. So when I really need to just draw something, I go out and I bring only my iPad and not my computer or anything. My iPad, my charger, my phone, my AirPods, can't go anywhere without those. That works really well for me, so let's go do that. For this excursion, I decided to go to a cafe called Postboks. It is right in between Tøyen and Kampen in Oslo, and I've been wanting to go here for a while. I actually saw a few people post about it on TikTok, and I'd never been because I don't go to this part of town very often, although it is super cute and I should go more often because this is really the best part of Oslo, I think. Håndbakt means hand-baked, and they really live up to that name. There's lots of baked goods here, especially cinnamon rolls. They are so delicious. So I went here and sat down at a table, got on my iPad and started drawing. I already had that rough sketch, so I started by making a bit of a nicer sketch, or more of a detailed sketch, I should say. I usually do this with my drawings, like I have a very rough sketch and then I go over and make a more detailed sketch. That's what's so great about Procreate, that you can work on different layers and I can make the bottom layer more transparent so that it's easy to kind of draw on top of it, and that makes it really easy when I do the line art later. So I took my time with the sketch, and I tend to do very different lines when sketching and when doing line art. So when I do line art, I tend to have like long flowing strokes because I think that that looks nicer. But with the sketch, I tend to go with like the short back and forth strokes, if that makes sense. And I do this with traditional art as well. So I think it's just muscle memory. What I really wanted to convey in this piece was the movement. So of course she's in water, so I wanted the hair to be flowing, I wanted the tail, like the bottom of the tail, the fins, to be flowing, and I wanted there to be a lot of movement. And I think I conveyed that pretty well in the final sticker. Here it's just, you know, getting all of the details in there, not necessarily the final lines, but as detailed as possible. And then of course I can go over and do another sketch if I feel like I need that before I do the line art. But this time I felt pretty good about the sketch, and it was detailed enough for me to be able to do the line art just right on top of there. When drawing a mermaid like this, at least the way I draw them, I have a lot of transparent parts. So I want the fins to be kind of transparent. And so that means that I need to work on several different layers, because some of the line art needs to be in the front and some of the line art needs to be behind the color layers. If you've never worked with real layers before, this might seem a little bit confusing, but it's actually not that complicated, and you just need to keep track of the layers that you're working with and make sure that you're working on the correct layer. My favorite sketching pen or brush, I guess, in Procreate is the Norway pencil. I really like that one. For my line art, I usually use the technical pen, which is in the inking section in Procreate. These are both brushes that come with Procreate, so you don't have to pay extra for them. But of course, there are so many brushes that you can buy that lets you do all kinds of different effects, but these are my favorites for that. And then when I color, I usually use the hard airbrush because that is just an even layer of color. And then I add like shading and highlights also using the hard brush, but by using a clipping mask. One thing that I like to do with my line art is that if I have a lot of details in a drawing like this one, there is a lot of hair and there is a lot of like different parts of the drawing, and I like to draw everything in black and then I change the color later by using the alpha lock function. And so to make the coloring easier for myself, towards the end of the drawing process, I make different line art on different layers. So the hair is its own layer. And so that way, when I want to change the color of the line art for the hair, I don't need to be super careful not to color any other parts of the drawing. I can just focus on the hair. And then of course you have to be careful about which layer is in the front and which is in the back and all of that. But that is just a little bit of finagling towards the end, I think, or like final details and stuff. I have no idea if the way that I do things is the most convenient or the most efficient, but it is what is working for me. So for me, it is efficient and it works well. So as you can see, I do the line art a little bit at a time. I don't do all of the hair all at once. I don't do all of the body all at once. I just build it little by little because I know that some parts will have to look a little bit different. And especially with the hair, I want to draw the part that is going to be in front first and then kind of work my way backwards, if that makes sense. I absolutely hate drawing hands, so I usually have to sketch hands several times before I feel happy with them. I think that might be a universal experience for artists. I've never met or talked to an artist who loves drawing hands. I usually spend a long time on my line art. It is one of the processes that takes up the most time for me, I think. Because of my style of drawing digitally, the line art is very important. Some people will use different techniques and different ways of drawing or painting digitally that won't require as much line art as my style does. But in my art, the line art is very important, and so I always take my time to do it very thoroughly. As you can see, I am zooming in and out a lot to get as close as possible, get all the details in, checking to see if it looks okay when zoomed out. And then I also try to keep in mind that the finished printed product, the sticker, is going to be a lot smaller than this, so not all details are necessary, like the very small stuff isn't really going to be visible. So that's kind of how I decide on what will be in the drawing and what will not be. I wanted to have some fish swimming around, but I decided to just keep them as little blobs for now and then start working on the colors, and then I would draw the fish later because I wasn't quite sure how to do it, and when in doubt I just kind of take a break from that one thing that I'm unsure about and then move on to something that I know I can do. And I knew that I could get started on the coloring. Because it is digital, it is very easy to change the color once you have created a color layer. So I usually color in everything with the hard airbrush, and then I can alpha lock this layer and make it into a different color if I want to. Luckily here I chose the color that I wanted to use right away, so that was fine. The hair color was actually meant to just be a placeholder. I wanted to do like a funky hair color originally, but then after I colored in everything and I kind of saw it all together, I felt like it kind of fit her. And I know it's like super classic to have a red-haired mermaid, but I think that it actually turned out really nice, so I really like this color. In the sticker version, the colors are a little bit darker than what they appear here on the screen, and that is one thing that I always have to think about when printing stickers, is that the colors will look slightly different printed on paper versus printed with the vinyl finish. and all of that. Different printers have different color settings. I don't print the stickers myself, so I have less control over what the color is going to look like in the finished product. So I kind of just have to gamble that it will be okay. But a good rule of thumb for me and my manufacturer is that the colors will turn out a little bit darker than they seem on the screen, and so I should make the colors a little bit lighter if I want them to appear in the shade that I want. I will admit that I didn't really think much about that when drawing this, so that's why the hair turned out a little bit darker than I would have liked it to be. But you know, it's all good. It's just a little bit of hair. Coloring in the flat colors is pretty easy. I make a new layer for each color usually, or for different parts of the canvas that won't interfere with each other, because when I add the shading and the highlights, I make clipping masks. And what that means is that I will have the layer with the base color, for example, the tail. I'll have a base color for that, and then I will make a layer and put it above, like right above, and I will make a clipping mask out of that layer. And what that does is that anything that I do or draw will stay within the shape of the base colored layer. So I don't have to be super precise to stay within the lines. As long as I stay near the edge, the color won't bleed out outside of the edge. So learning how to use clipping masks was like a game changer for me back when I learned how to do that, because before I would use the Alpha Lock, and I still use the Alpha Lock but for different purposes, but I would use the Alpha Lock because that locks the shape as well, and you can just go over it with a different color or anything and it will only affect that shape. I apologize if these terms are difficult, but this is actually very basic functions of Procreate. There is a lot more stuff that you can do, but this is super basic. So that's how I normally do the shading and the highlighting. And then for the fins here, I was working with a layer that had a lowered opacity. So while most of my base colors are at 100% opacity, the fins, I wanted those to be a little bit transparent. The sticker has a white background, so it's not really going to matter in that sense, but it will matter when it comes to other parts of the mermaid being visible underneath the fins. So that's why I did that. You might have noticed that the background changed, and that's because I had to go home. This was on a different day where I decided I would finish it, and I also forgot to film drawing the fishes and coloring in the fish. So that's my bad. There's no project without a mistake here or there, right? I did my best. The fish were actually very simple to draw. I just kind of modeled them after some goldfish, because goldfish are very silly. They are like very round and plump, and then some of them at least have very long flowing fins. Well, obviously these are not goldfish because they are blue. Procreate lets you download a time-lapse video of your canvas, so the entire project from start to finish, everything shows up in there. So I'm putting that time lapse towards the end of this video, and then you can see how I drew the fish as well, because all of my line work and everything is in that video. One of my favorite parts about shading and highlighting is the highlighting part. I usually have a base color for each part of the drawing, and then I have a darker color for shading and a lighter color for highlighting. And it doesn't always look natural, but of course my style is very cartoony, so I don't think that really matters. Obviously in real life you'd have a lot more shades of color. I don't really do any blending or anything like that. I have crisp lines, so the highlights are very visible. They don't fade into the main color. I used to draw that way. Like the last time I drew mermaids like this that was kind of the way that I drew them, with a more faded airbrushing look. And although I like that as well, I think that this way of drawing is closer to the way I draw traditionally with markers, and that's why I prefer it. I was struggling a little bit with finding out which color to use for her skin, because I wasn't sure if I wanted it to look more like she was underwater. In that case, I would have maybe like a bluish tint kind of on the skin, but I ended up not doing that because it just made her look a little bit sickly. And since there's no background or anything, I didn't feel like it was necessary to give her that bluish tint. But you can see me playing around with the colors here, both on the skin and on her hair, kind of seeing what it would look like if I have a layer over the top of the color that is kind of bluish. Here I am kind of in the final stages of my coloring. You might be able to see on the fish that they have a little bit of a bluish aura around them. I did this by copying and pasting the base color layer on the fish, like the light blue, and then doing the Gaussian blur. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but the Gaussian blur. I almost maxed that out, and that kind of creates this faded color around the fish. But I ended up removing it in the final drawing because at this point I was still unsure about how I wanted the sticker to look. Obviously I drew this to be a sticker, so I have to think about the sticker material, the special effects I might want to have on here, because with my manufacturer I can choose to do a transparent sticker, in which case the fin, like the bottom of the fin and also the fish's fins would be transparent, and so when you place the sticker, anything that's underneath those parts will kind of show through a little bit depending on the opacity that I choose. But I did want to have a different effect on the sticker sheet, and if I want that I can't do transparent, so it had to be opaque with a white background or like a white border. Basically this past year I've really been loving the mirror effect, because then there are certain shiny parts to the sticker and I think that that looks really pretty and it gives it that little extra, you know, it's not just a flat sticker, but there's some life to it. In the March Happy Mail I used a pixie dust effect, which I also really enjoyed, but this time I felt like the mirror effect would be better, because then the scales on her tail, for example, can kind of be glistening in the sun. It will look like the sunlight coming through the water, and you know, when you look at a fish that's swimming, it's kind of glittering sometimes. I had some final shading details to do, and then after I feel like I'm happy with all of the color, all of the shading and highlighting parts, then I start changing the color of the line art. And this is where I use the alpha lock feature, and this is where you kind of lock all of the lines on one layer, and then you can go over it with another color with any brush really, so you can make textures or just change the color, and I use the alpha lock method to just change the color. Although when I draw traditionally on paper I will usually stick to a black line art, when I draw digitally and it's so easy to change the color of the line art, I prefer to do that instead. So I usually go with a color that's quite a bit darker than the shade and then I change all of the color of the line art so that any line that is touching the tail, for example, should be a darker blue, and all of the hair should have a darker red color. This is usually the last thing that I do unless I want to add any white details. I don't do this that much. I could probably do it more but I usually do it on people's eyes, for example. I will add some white dots to kind of be the light reflecting in people's eyes so that they look more alive. Because if you don't add any white dots on people's eyes, they look like they are staring deep into your soul and they are kind of dead. So that's why I like to do that. You can see that I have a lot of different line art in this drawing, and the reason I'm able to change the color of it so efficiently is that I made a lot of the line art on different layers. And I mentioned this earlier, but it's even easier to see now, I think, when I'm changing the color often. I actually ended up adding some stars to this drawing eventually, because I went from the idea that it would be a transparent sticker to a non-transparent sticker that did change how I wanted the fish to look. When they were transparent, I wanted them to kind of be glowing a little, or give the illusion of them glowing. And I also wanted to have some glowing lights in between the fish, so that it's not just the fish swimming, but there's also some like sparkles and everything. And in the speed drawing, or the recording from Procreate, you'll be able to see all of the ideas that I went through, because like I said, I wasn't able to film every single thing. I really love watching the Procreate canvas recordings. Unfortunately, the quality is really bad, so it looks super grainy when you're watching this, but I hope that you'll enjoy it anyway. I think that it's really fun to watch, and I love watching other people's processes too, because this is where you can really see everything that is going on in the canvas. You can't hide anything from the recording. All the wrong lines or all the bad ideas that you have, they will show up in the canvas recording. And it's really fun to watch it come together like this. What Procreate can also tell you is how much time you've spent in the canvas, how many strokes you've made in one piece of art. And for this one, I spent 3 hours and 26 minutes on this. The total strokes made are 3,285. And this is the type of statistics that you won't get for traditional drawing on paper, unless you of course time yourself, but I would not be able to remember to turn the timer on and off. Oh, and by the way, here you see my fish drawing process. So let's talk a little bit about my manufacturer, because I'd like to share with you how I get my stickers made. I wanted this to be a vinyl sticker. I don't print stickers at home. Like, I have a sticker shop, but I don't print the stickers myself, because I knew from the very beginning that I did not want my life to be about producing the products. I wanted to create the designs, but I didn't want to have to print everything and be reliant on my own equipment. So this way, yes, I need to produce higher quantity to kind of make it worth it. And that's not really a problem now. It was a bit of a problem in the beginning when I didn't have an audience or customers, but now it is working out quite well, so I'm really happy about that. The website that I use to order my vinyl stickers is called Sticker App. They are based in many different countries, I think. I think they might be Swedish, but I could be wrong. My stickers always come from Sweden. And I know that there is like a Japanese based one, there is an American one, stickerapp.com. I'm using stickerapp.no because that way I can pay the VAT right away, and instead of having to get a bill with VAT and customs later on. So here you can just see me upload the design to their platform. It's very easy to use. This is not sponsored by Sticker App. I wish. Sticker App, please sponsor me. But yeah, I upload it and then I choose how big I want the border to be. I always choose the smallest one because I think any bigger white border will just kind of get in the way for the design. It's not really necessary. And then I choose the special effects that I want. And in the notes section, I write how I want the effects to look, like where I want the effect to go. So far, they have always been able to follow my instructions perfectly, and I've never had any issues with it. I'm really happy with that. The turnaround is also super fast and the shipping is really fast, so really I have nothing to complain about. The vinyl stickers are always the first stickers to arrive at my apartment whenever I order new stickers. Now, what I did want to do this time though was to make a postcard with the same design. So like I said, the sticker is for my patrons this month, but I also wanted to create a postcard that would be available to everyone in my shop. And to do that, I just made my A6 canvas, I guess, or artboard they're called, in Adobe Illustrator. I put my artwork in there and sized it appropriately, and to give it something a little extra, I decided to make this oval shape in the back because I thought that would kind of make it look nice and a little bit different instead of just the drawing on a postcard. I also made a backing for the postcard, and to print the postcard I used Vistaprint. Like sticker wrap, Vistaprint is based in many different countries, so I used a Norwegian version of Vistaprint, and they always arrive super quickly as well. A few days later, the stickers arrived. I made a lot of them, and it doesn't look very nice when they show up because they just show up in a Ziploc bag like this. But they are here, and I'm going to show you what they look like. Ta-da! So as you can see, they have a white background. I don't know if you can tell from this, but there are like certain shiny parts that kind of reflect the light. All of the little, oh my gosh, please focus. So all of the little stars are shiny, and the scales on her tail and also scales on the fish have this mirror effect. It is an interestingly shaped sticker. Like when you look at it from the back, you definitely can't tell what it is. It's super pretty though. I really, really like it. And as a bonus, of course, we have the postcards. These are an A6 size. Oh my gosh, I really like this pink background. I think that that is a very nice detail. On the back side, it looks like this. So it has my store here, Ikigai Papir, the web address. It has this spot for a stamp that I put a mermaid tail in, and then this little address space here. When making postcards, like I don't really have to do a backside like this, and it is cheaper to only print on one side, but I thought that it would be a nice little touch, and of course people don't have to use it as a postcard, they can use it as an art print, and that's totally fine. But yeah, here they are. I'm really happy with the results. This sticker is being sent out to my patrons this month. So anyone who joins the Charles or the Twin Charles tier during April, sometime during April, will get this sticker, and it will be in a turquoise envelope because I like to use different colored envelopes every month to fit the theme of the stickers that are inside. This postcard is available on my website. Patrons get a 15% discount on any shop orders. So really, if you're planning to make a purchase, I would actually recommend joining my Patreon, even if it is just on the lowest tier, because you still get the discount even on the lowest tier. So yeah, you can definitely save some money there. And one thing that is very valuable as a small business owner is to not just make one product with a piece of art, because that's how you get burnt out. If you have to make new pieces of art for every single product that you put in your store. Me using this mermaid design both for the postcard and for the Patreon sticker means that I get an extra product that I wouldn't have had otherwise, because I probably wouldn't have made a postcard, like just a postcard this month. I will be completely honest, the postcards are not my best sellers at all, but I really like getting them from other small businesses, so I'm hoping that some of you guys will feel the same way and you would like the little postcard. That being said, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was interesting and maybe even helpful in some way. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this from me. Thank you to my patrons for always being so awesome. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe to my channel before you go. And other than that, I hope that you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!